Squarespace list sections are one of my favorite features of version 7.1, and I recorded an overview video of them a couple of years ago. Since then, Squarespace has made some changes, so I thought it was time for an update. I'm Becca Harpain from Inside the Square, and in this video, I'm going to teach you about list sections in Squarespace version 7.1. I'll teach you about the setup and setting options, some of your display options, and creative ways that you can customize that content. Without further ado, I'll go ahead and share my screen so we can dive right in. Here we are inside Squarespace, and one of the first things I want to share with you is where you can find these list sections, because they're kind of hidden. I'm going to hop into edit mode on the standard page, and let's go ahead and scroll down till we see the add section option. There we go. I'll click on the add section button, and what I want you to notice is take a look at the top right-hand corner of all of these page section previews. As I scroll down this list, all of a sudden, we're going to see this icon right here. This is an indicator that we're looking at an auto layout section. This is a list section. Now, these are often called people sections because on the left-hand side of the screen here, if you choose the people category, many of these are list sections, but not all of them. If we scroll down here, you'll notice there's no icon in these sections. These are standard page sections. We need to choose one that has the icon to find the list section design options. I'll go ahead and choose this Meet the Team right here, and we'll talk about the layout and style options that we now have to work with. One of the first things I want you to notice is on the right-hand side of the screen here, we now see the option to edit content and then edit section. And you'll see if I click here, I can't actually click on any of these items. Nothing's moving. I can't type to change the text. I can't edit this like I can a standard page section. If we scroll down underneath that, I've got a standard page section here. On the right-hand side of the screen, it just says Edit Section and View Layouts. On the left, it says Add Block because I can add content blocks here. I can click on things and move them around, double-click on text and start to type. Changing the style of the font. We've got all kinds of options here in a standard page section, but if we scroll up, those aren't here for a list section. Now, these list sections automatically organize content that you add using this button right here. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll click Edit Content, and we'll see we've got a few options here. For the entire section, we can have a title. That's what says Meet the Team. And we can also toggle on a button for the entire section. If we scroll down, that button is now here at the bottom of the page. Then we have Show Image, Show Title, Show Body, and Show Button. If we click this, each individual list item also gets a unique button. That's something really unique for list sections. It would have taken me a while to create all of this content in a standard page section. A lot of duplication would have happened there, but that happens instantly just by toggling on that option for this type of list section. Now, the Content tab is where we control all the content of this list section. Again, I can't click on the title to change the text. I need to select Edit Content, click on the Content tab, and click on Title. Now I can highlight this text and make it anything I want it to be. There we go. Let's add an exclamation point to that statement. And heck, let's highlight the whole thing and make it bold. We can customize this using basic text editing features. I do want you to notice I can't change the text type. Can't say make this part a heading 1 and make this second line a heading 2. The only customization options I really have here are bold, italicized, and underlined. And then I can make anything I want an active link. Now, I do want to mention we can customize this with code, and we will do that later on in this tutorial, but the built-in settings only allow us to have one type of text here. We can't have heading 1 and paragraph and whatever else we want. Now, up at the top, we have title alignment. This is going to change how the text is aligned. We can choose left, center, or right, and that's only changing the title of this list section. If we scroll down, these list items, they aren't affected at all. That's just the title. All right, let's go back here and take a look at the button. That's our next option. I'll scroll down on the page here so we can actually see the button. If we click on this option, this is where we can change the text to make the button say anything. And then we attach a link to it. Clicking this option, you can add a URL, you can add a file, an email, a phone number. You've got a lot of options there. And after that, we have the button type. This is where you can choose to have this list section match what you've assigned for your primary button, secondary button style, or your tertiary button style. Very important to know if you want to customize your list section button. And just like we saw for the title, left, center, and right, we have all the three major alignment options. All right, let's go ahead and change that back to, how about secondary? So it's a little bit more unique than the list item buttons themselves. All right, let's go back and look at an individual list item. We'll click into this option here, and you can see we have an image, image alt text, the title, description, button, and again, attaching a link to the button. This is for each individual item inside our list section. Now, if you want to rearrange the items, you can drag and drop these into whatever order you want them to be in. It is super duper customizable. Just drag and drop them around. Sometimes the editor gets stuck and it might show the incorrect title and image. This is a glitch that I've been dealing with as a Squarespace designer, and I want to assure you, if that happens, click out of the tab, select Edit Content, and click on Content again, and everything will reset. It's an annoying bug, and I'm glad it happened in this tutorial, so you don't have to stress if you see that happen on your own site. All right, now I do want to mention real quick here inside the description, just like we saw for the title, we can add bold, italicized underlines and assign any text an active link, but we can't add more than one text type, again, just like the title. All right, let's talk about some of the design tab, because this is where things get wild. First and foremost, we're looking at a simple list, but we can change that at any time. These list sections have three different options. Simple list will display every item in the list. Banner slideshow will make the image the background of the list. It will display one at a time. And then carousel is going to show more than one item at a time, and it'll display the image followed by the list item content. So again, simple list will display every single list item on the page. Banner slideshow will show one item at a time, and carousel will show multiple items at a time. Now, if we're working with carousel, we can say show 4 items, show 5. We can go all the way up to 6 or all the way down to 1 if we really want to. Super customizable there. And then after that, we have the image crop option. This is set to 3:2, but we can change it at any time. You can go for a circle, 16:9, keep the original ratio of the image, whatever you're comfortable with for your own unique website style. Then we have the infinite scroll option. If I scoot this over to the center, you can see I've got an arrow on the left and the right-hand side of the screen. Infinite scroll allows me to use these arrows to continually scroll through all of the content over and over again. If I toggle this off, you'll notice that it won't give me the left arrow once we're at the start of the list. And as soon as we click out of here and go all the way, we won't see the arrow on the right. We can click on the left, and we won't see the arrow on the left. But if we select Edit Content, Design, Infinite Scroll, we can keep scrolling on through all of the content. It's just going to go on forever. Now back here in Edit Content under Design, we have a few more important things I want to mention. Show adjacent slides. I'm going to pull this to the center again, and I'm going to highlight this on the screen really quick. Do you see what I'm outlining here? Watch what happens when I toggle off Show adjacent slides. Those go away. Our list items get centered on the page and we don't see the adjacent slides. If I toggle this on, it's a very clear indicator to people who are visiting my website that there's more content to scroll through. So I think that's a really cool feature to mention. All right, next up we have style. Style is where we change the size of the text. You can choose a preset, small, medium, and large, or extra large, or click these 3 dots and update the item title, description, and button size yourself. Make those buttons huge if you want to. Make the title big or super tiny. That's very customizable there right here in the editor. Now, underneath that, we have the card feature, and this is a really cool list item feature because it gives a background automatically to every item in your list. I'll click on this option and we can see, for some reason, we have a bright yellow and we can't see the color of the button. That's just a color issue. We'll get into that in a minute, but that's what happens when we toggle on the card option. Now, when we toggle that on, we have some padding that we can change here. Padding on the top, bottom, right, and left of the card. Adjust those as you see fit or choose a preset. Now, underneath padding, we also have arrows that we're looking at here. We have the arrows set to the center, which means they're aligned in the center vertically. If we choose bottom, they'll be placed underneath the list items and we can scroll through content here. All right, back in Edit Content under Design, we're almost done with this menu. Clicking into the Style option, if we scroll down here, we just have space above navigation. All this is the distance between the arrows and the text. And then we have the alignment for the arrows here, left, center, or right, and then space above navigation, which is the space between the list items and the arrows themselves. Now, all the changes we're making here are also being reflected on mobile. I think it's really important to mention that if we look at the mobile version of our site, this section, these arrows, all of those changes are going to be reflected on mobile. We can't edit that separately at the time of this recording. All of the changes we're making here to the way we're displaying this content will be reflected on mobile as well. All right, I want to keep going here. I want to hop into the design tab to show you the banner slideshow, and I also want to show you size and space, but I've got to be honest with you, Squarespacer. The fact that we can't see the button text here is something I have to change before I can move on. So let's talk about how we edit the colors of a list section. That's done using our Site Styles menu. I'm going to click on this paintbrush icon on the top right-hand side of the screen, and we're going to click into our colors option. Here we'll see that we've got the lightest one color theme. That's what we're working with. So I'm going to click on lightest one to edit that color theme. Now, scrolling down on this list here on the right-hand side, if we just keep on scrolling, we're going to see list section carousel. That's what we're working with. And here we can see the card button text and button background, they're the same color. That's why we couldn't see the text. So let's go ahead and change that. I'll click on card button text. We'll change the color. There we go. Now we can see what's on that button, and I feel much better about continuing this tutorial. So one last time, to edit the colors of a list section here, what I want you to do is identify your color theme, and in your Site Styles menu, click into the colors option, which you'll find right here. Then select that color theme and scroll down until you see the title for the list section carousel. It's pretty early on in the list. We're using the carousel type here. We scroll up, we have list section simple. That's the list section above here, and we can make all kinds of color changes we want, customizing anything we see fit about that particular type of list section in our Squarespace website that's assigned to that color theme. All right, we've covered a lot so far. If you need to pause the video, you go for it. Otherwise, we are jumping right back into editing the content so I can show you a few more of the design options. Scrolling down here to size and space, let's talk about this a little bit. We have full, which is going to stretch these list items across the entire screen, or we can select inset. That's going to pull things in a little bit and make it easier to see that there's more content here. Our next option is media width, and I think that should be labeled media size because that's exactly what it changes. If we select small, it's going to change the size of those images, small, medium, and large. Now, if you don't like those three presets, you can get really specific, clicking on these three dots here, and use the slider to change the size here manually. If you choose a size that is not 100%, you can change the alignment to left, center, or right. And the same thing happens with the content width. Right now it's set to large, so that's 100%. If I move that down to medium, I can choose to place the content left, center, or right. Then we have space between elements, and this has to do with the elements in the list section. Space below the section title can be managed here, between the image and text, below the item title, above the item button. We've got some options. You can also just choose one of the presets, small, medium, or large. Space between slides is another great feature to pay attention to here. Sometimes spacing out list items and creating a little bit more content between them can make it easier for people to read the content that's there. Then we have vertical padding. I'm going to scroll down here a little bit so we can see the distance between the end of this list section and the end of the page section is what changes with vertical padding. Small, medium, and large. Let me go and scroll back up and I'll show you that from the top. That might be a little bit better. We've got large, medium, and small. Click those three dots to manually adjust it for the top and the bottom. Super customizable. And then last but not least, one of my favorite features of list sections, the position. Every list item is aligned at the top right now. If I choose this, they'll be aligned in the center. And if I choose this, they'll all be aligned at the bottom. But if I choose this, they will all be equal height. This is one of my favorite features of list items. You click this and every list item will be equal height in the list section, no matter how much content is there. So again, that's under Edit Content, Design, Size and Space. Scroll all the way down to Position. There you go. All right, my friend, we've got one more to review, and that is the banner slideshow. Banner slideshow gives us that full image in the background, which could be ideal for anyone doing landscape photography or somebody who wants to display a large image behind the content. Now, we can select full or inset, which will bring the image in a little bit. We can adjust the vertical padding, which we'd already done before for our carousel section. We've got alignment, which is going to change the alignment of the list item itself. Infinite scroll, which we already talked about before, same with show adjacent slides. Style is exactly the same, but here's where the card feature gets very cool. It's kind of hard to read the text on top of that image, isn't it? If I toggle on card, we're going to get that background color behind the list item, but on top of the image. I love using the card feature for a banner list to make sure that my text is readable. Now, underneath that, you've got the padding, you've got the arrows. We've been through all that before. I want to encourage you to click around and get really comfortable here with updating this for your own unique style. Under size and space, you'll see a lot of the similar options we had. Slide padding is something that you can change manually. Minimum slide height is very important if you're dealing with large images. And slide content width is also pretty important with the amount of content that's being displayed there. You can see that although I only have a small amount of text, if I choose a large slide content width, that's going to take up a lot more space on top of the image than choosing something small or medium. Space between elements is exactly what we saw before, like the space above the item button, super customizable, and I recommend working with presets if you're comfortable with those and don't need to be super specific. Then we have vertical position, top, center, and bottom, and then horizontal, left, center, and right. Very important for editing content that's going to be displayed on top of an image. So that's it for your overview of the different list section types. Simple, again, shows all of the list items on the page. Banner slideshow shows one at a time in the center. And then we have carousel. Each one of these has its own unique display settings for what you can do with the content of that list. And I strongly recommend that you explore it to find the right style for your own unique website. Now, before we call this tutorial a wrap, I have got to talk about adding some creative code ideas to your list sections. So let's go ahead and select Save and Exit, and we'll get customizing here. On the left-hand side of my screen, I'm going to select Pages, then Website Tools, and then Custom CSS. All the code I'm about to share with you is underneath this video, and if you're brand new to custom code, just stick with me here. It's a lot of fun to work with and not nearly as complicated as you might think. One of my favorite things to do for list sections is to create a hover effect, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to type the text list item and I'll say hover, then I'll open up a curly bracket, and let's change the background to a bright yellow on a hover. I'm going to add exclamation point important so the computer browser pays attention to my code. And now when I hover over these items, they are a vibrant, way too bright yellow. And I think that's a really cool way to make list sections stand out immediately. Now, one other code I want to share with you before we call this a wrap is going to give us the option to have two different types of text inside the title of a list section. Let's remove the code we added, and I'm going to say list section title strong. That's computer code speak for just the bold characters in this list section title. If I open up a curly bracket, I can now say font family serif, and I can say color red, and we'll go ahead and add the exclamation point important after both of those spelled correctly. There we go. And now the bold text inside my list item title is now a different font family and a different color. Definitely a fun way to customize with code. So I think it's a really cool thing to mention if you want to have more than one font style for the title of your list section. Identify the bold font or the italicized font using custom code. Again, I'll include some information about this in the description underneath the video. Last but not least, let's do a fun hover effect for these list item buttons, okay? So to do this, I've got a quick code that's easy to remember. We're just going to say list item A, and we'll add the text hover, open up a curly bracket, and how about we make the background purple on a hover? As soon as I hover over this item, we're going to get a purple button. Let's change it a little bit more. How about a semicolon, and we'll say border radius 0 important. And now the button is going to change shape on a hover, which can really make it stand out. And let's go ahead and give it a box shadow too. Stick with me here. Even if you're new to code, this is definitely a fun one to add and super easy to customize. I'm just going to type a little bit of code here. And now, how about we make that a little stronger? There we go. Now when we hover over those buttons, we've got a little lift with a shadow. Definitely a fun way to make your list item buttons just a little bit more unique than the rest of your site. Now underneath this video, you'll find all the codes that I used and additional tutorials about customizing your list sections with code. It's a lot of fun to do, so definitely check those out if you want to learn more. But before you jump into those, let's just do a quick recap of the good to know info. When you hop into edit mode on a standard page and you select the add section option, scrolling through any of these page section previews, if you see this little indicator, this means it's most likely a list section. You'll find a lot of these under the people section, and it doesn't matter which one you start with, because as soon as you add a list section, you can select the edit content option. Under the Design tab, you can change the style to be Simple, which displays all the list items, Banner, which displays one at a time, or Carousel, which displays more than one at a time, but not all of them at once. That gives you the option to scroll through. Under the Elements tab is where you decide what content you want to display. A title and button for the entire section, an image, title, body text, or button for the list items, and inside the Content tab is where you actually change that content. For your list section title, you can do basic text formatting to make it bold, italicized, underline, or an active link, and you can add a button that links to anything on your site. The button type can be primary, secondary, tertiary, totally up to you, and you can adjust the alignment here in this section. Now underneath that, we have individual list items. To rearrange them, just drag and drop them into whatever order you want them to be in. If things do mess up and it looks a little glitchy after you do that, click out of that section, select Edit Content, and click on the Content tab again. It will reset. Everything's okay. Click into the list item to change the image, add alt text, a title, description, a button, and a button link. And inside the Design tab is where things get really fun. Here you can adjust the alignment for the list items, change the order, columns, image crop size, and then under Style, Size, and Space is where you start to make modifications for your unique list section. To change any of the colors for what you see here in this list section on your site, I want you to click on the Site Styles option, click into the Colors menu here, and identify your color theme. When you hop into this color theme to edit, scroll down to the list sections, which are pretty high on this list here, and make sure you identify the type of list section you're going to change. I'm going to adjust the list section simple, so let's scroll up to that one here. We'll click on the card background color and choose something from my color palette, or a completely custom color using the color picker here. We've got a lot of different options for editing the colors. Just remember that everything you change on the desktop version will be reflected on mobile. We can't adjust mobile separately at the time of this recording. I think that's going to be a good spot to call this overview a wrap. Thank you so much for watching this video about list sections in Squarespace. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, let me know in the comments and give this video a like. I'm Becca Harpain from Inside the Square, and I've got a lot more to teach you about all the cool things that Squarespace can do. Check out some of the related content linked below if you'd like to learn more. And most importantly, have fun with your website. Bye for now. Find everything you need to make Squarespace uniquely yours at InsideTheSquare.co. That's InsideTheSquare.co.